in your country. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, yes, scores of temples are being converted. Scores of temples are being converted into mosques or commercial buildings. Desperate cries and desperate pleas of families, or those families whose girl has been abducted, have fallen on deaf ears as far as Pakistan is concerned. And the Prime Minister of such a nation wants to talk about Islamophobia in India and wants to call out India and France.
Yeah, Swati, can I please first request you to kindly mute or fade out Mr. Cheema, because last time we were here on debate together, he constantly interrupted me. So I would please request you
I'm
to
sure
do that.
Mr. Cheema will have some patience and listen to your point.
So obviously what you say. Yeah, thank you. And it's not only, Swati, it's not only that Imran Khan has taken umbrage, it is the Turkish President Erdogan. The Middle East and most of the Arab world is in turmoil. They're asking for French boycott. And, it's basically everything is on the boil. Because let me turn to this problem philosophically, if you allow me. Just give me 2.5 minutes. It's very important. You see, Swati, this is an argument that President Macron cannot win because he is man, not God. And God, or Allah, has specifically ordered that those, I quote, who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, 33:57. And that, I quote, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger is that they be killed or crucified, 533. Now for 1.8 billion Muslims, Allah's word is inviolable. And He Himself has said so. 33:62, 6115, 1827, 634. We need to understand, Swati, anyone who is perceived to have abused Allah or His Messenger will, sooner or later, meet the fate of Kamlesh Tiwari or Samuel Paty. It may take a week, a month, a year, a decade, but it will happen. The second thing we need to understand is this, that it is the so-called moderate Muslims perennially playing the victim card who are Islamophobic. That is, they fear Islam. They fear to bring out the commandments of their holy book in their entirety because they fear being called illiberal and hypocrites. They snare the fundamentalists but spare the fundamentals. And every single time the apologists cringe at violence or retribution being ordered, they bring out the excuse of context or interpretation so as to hide the true meaning. This despite them knowing very well that most such decrees are open-ended and for all time. Just who is a believer or a non-believer has been explicitly defined in the holy book by Allah. 33:36, 3:132, 8:2, 49:15. The disbelievers of that time, polytheists, Christians, Jews, apostates, were seen to possess certain characteristics. And it is these characteristics that are condemned and ordered to be punished in the holy book. The orders are not for the non-believers of that time. They are for anyone who possesses these characteristics for all time. Please give me 30 seconds. All Muslim schools accept this. 1.8 billion Muslims accept this. So they are wrong. And this handful of deceiving moderates are right. Those who abuse Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them and prepared for them a humiliating punishment, is context devoid. Those who disbelieve in our verses, we will drive them into a fire, 456, is context devoid. No other deity has the right to be worshipped except Allah, 4062 is context devoid. The irony is that the apologists, who themselves are Islamophobic, want non-believers against whom so much violence has been ordered to feel good about it and not be fearful. Isn't that nice? Have your cake and eat it too.
Right. Mr. Kavarchiva, thank you very much.
You can say the BJP is a, communal force. You can call Hindus, Gardis or whatever you want to call them. But there's one piece that needs to be written, viewers, on what is the alternative that the opposition is providing. If you're all going to plumb Dr. Ranganathan, the same trough of invective and hate, why should the voter think that Achhe Din will come under Akhilesh Yadav when he's got Boti Masood, when he's got this gentleman with him who thinks that he only represents Muslim interests, Mr. Rafiq, and several others. There's a whole list, and I can, I don't want to constantly flag this list and fly it in the face of all our viewers, but there's a whole list. And I'm only asking, why are we doing this?
Good evening. No, there are two issues here, very quickly. Number one, the SP is very clear-cut in its objective and appeal when it covets the votes from the Muslim community. To be sure, every party tries to garner support of the constituency it has endeared itself to. This is not a surprise. And because SP is doing it, no one is going to say they are communalizing or polarizing the election. Talking of Jinnah, that boti guy, खींच के निकालेंगे हिंदुओं को, of Hindu Gardi, is not polarizing apparently. But talking of Ram Mandir and
Mathura is, Rahul, the favorite recourse of religious fanatics the moment they lose an argument is, why are you talking of religion all the time? Why all this Hindu-Muslim talk, all this polarization? They say this the moment one talks of religion other than Hinduism. They never tire of Hindu-phobia. No, sir. Or exposing the ills of Hinduism. They want to burn the Vedas. They want to burn the Smritis. Manusmriti ko jala de. They want people to reject Hinduism, leave its fold. But the moment you talk of Islam, the moment you quote the holy verses unpalatable to them, the moment you redress the balance, they begin jumping like crabs on a hot pan, saying, don't talk of religion, polarize kyun kar rahe ho? Arey bhai, Sarmal, tell these muppets that religion must be talked about not just some of the time, but all of the time. It is the great disruptor. It has led to illogic and irrationality and murder and terror. It is the longest running dictatorial regime that has subjugated billions or extracted unspeakable crimes from them. Point number 2, very briefly, Rahul. They are trying to use Hindu Gardi as a means to dismiss a proven fact. What is the proven fact? That law and order has indeed improved under Yogi Adityanath compared to the years under Akhilesh Yadav. Mr. Singh rattled out some NCRB data. I will also give you that data. The latest, he is correct in saying we have from 2019-2020 from NCRB. But that is good enough to see the trend. For example, very briefly, Rahul, just a minute. In 2017, UP recorded 4,089 cases of robbery, and in 2019 it was 2,200. Cases of dacoity have nearly halved in the state, from 263 in 2017 to 124 in 2019. Cases related to murder have decreased from 4,300 to 3,800. There is a reduction of 45% in rape cases. And the Yogi government has so far seized and demolished 1,000 crores worth of properties held by mafias and criminals. 10,021 criminals with bounties on their heads are in jail. 36,990 criminals have been arrested under the Gangster Act, while 523 accused have been booked under the NSA. Number of riots have come down from 8,018 in 2016 to 5,700 in 2019. If Hindus were on the rampage, agar ye Hindu Gardi kar rahe hote, would law and order have seen an improvement? Rahul, just 10 seconds. Do we remember, I want Mr. Singh to ask this simple question. Please answer this. Mr. Singh,
yes, please.
Do you remember those 622 incidents of goons brutally attacking the policemen reported in the state under the Akhilesh Yadav government? And who said this? Akhilesh Yadav's own government on the floor of the Legislative Assembly. 622 goons were attacking the policemen. Do you remember it, sir? I'm a man who really, uses compliments very rarely, but I have to compliment you because if you go through this debate since the beginning, you have been ruthlessly objective. You're not pro-BJP or pro-SP or anti-SP. You are saying that, look, the citizens of India demand an answer. And I'll tell you why they demand an answer. And I'll tell you why we are in this morass for God knows how many years. Because the same person who is now saying Hindu Gardi might tomorrow join the BJP. Let us remember, who coined the word saffron terror? He is now with the BJP. Who said, I think Kripa Shankar Singh, he said that 2611 was RSS conspiracy. He is with the BJP. तो ये इधर उधर होते रहते हैं और ये जनता का वो कर रहे हैं. मैं वो शब्द यूज नहीं करना चाहता, but that is the reality.
Because, there has been this talk that this was some sort of a pogrom against one community. There was rampant Hindu phobia. There was a normalization of Islamophobia. How do you now react to this? Even though it's early days, there's no verdict.
No, absolutely, Rahul. We await the final closure, and that can only happen through the hands of the judiciary. But all these revelations are damning. And if you were to add, if you remember you might have to go a year before this charge sheet revelations or testimony of Tahir Hussain in his own words. And such a grisly picture they painted, especially when he disclosed that his mobs were chanting, quote, "Kafiron ko maro." Look, as for the genesis of these riots, doubtless there was verbal provocation from both sides. To put that as a reason that left 53 dead and 200 injured is ridiculous propaganda. It wasn't Kapil Mishra or Waris Pathan or Harsh Mandar, the men responsible for these riots, but people like Tahir Hussain and Farooqi. 1,300 people were arrested, and they included roughly equal number of Hindus and Muslims. Both Hindus and Muslims took part, and both Hindus and Muslims lost their lives. And yet, there are those, as you say, who believe that Hindus weren't victims at all. that Ratan Lal wasn't stoned and shot, that Dilbar wasn't hacked and burnt alive, that Vinod wasn't lynched because his bike sported a Jai Shri Ram sticker, that temples weren't attacked and desecrated, that Arun Public School wasn't burnt to the ground, that Rahul Thakur wasn't shot to death, that acid and stones and petrol bombs weren't thrown from Tahir Hussein's roof, that Santosh didn't throw her 2 grandchildren from the window of her house that was set on fire, that Hindu Dalits.
So there have been a lot of omissions.
And beaten by a bloodthirsty Muslim mob.
There have been a lot of omissions. That's what Dr. Ranganathan is saying. Now, viewers, we heard the term Hindu Gardi earlier. What would you call this? Some people would ask. And why is it not being called out for what it is? I just want to leave you with 3 lines from a WhatsApp. This is Anas Tanveer, whose WhatsApp says, I'm very disturbed with the development that has taken place since yesterday, and to me it seems like a concerted plan. So I really need to know whether this group is ready to identify and condemn organization and individuals who instigated this violence. Because this is a message going out to people on the group, fellow protesters. Quite clearly someone there thought that things had gone too far. I leave it at this, viewers. I don't want to stand in judgment. That the court will do. We've just brought out certain facts and a twist in this particular case.